killed. And one has to wonder, when JFK Jr. read this story for the first time, I'm sure he really had to think long and hard about publishing this story, but ultimately he did. And what that does is it says something to us. And there's a lot of things that can be taken from this story. Obviously, there's a lot of JFK comparisons in terms of whether or not Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. Was he coerced? Was he being handled by someone? Was there a strong motive by his own government to have him murdered? And aside from that, after reading this story, who was really behind the Palestinian terror after the Oslo Accords? So Rabin was trying to institute peace, and immediately following that, the Palestinians upped their destruction. And it makes you wonder, who is really behind that Palestinian terror? Was it the Palestinians? Was it someone else trying to make the Palestinians look like this Oslo Accords wasn't going to be successful? What really was going on there? Obviously, I want to know how close Raviv was to the Shin Bet. It seems like he was pretty close. The next question I'd like to know is, what was Netanyahu's involvement? Obviously, his name's brought up and he's somehow involved in this.
And a chance, Bibi is a murderer. The sign says, Bibi, Rabin's blood is on your hands.
An assassin has taken yet another world leader away from us. It was just after the biggest peace rally in Tel Aviv.
Rabin's widow blamed Netanyahu for contributing to her husband's death.
The assassination of Yitzhak Rabin has also produced shock in the Palestinian community.
And said so on worldwide television.
Your husband pointed the finger at Mr. Netanyahu and said, you must stop this incitement.
Yeah.
To what extent do you blame Mr. Netanyahu and the Likud for what has happened?
I do blame them. In a rally in Kikar Tzion in Jerusalem that showed him in the uniform of a Nazi. So Mr. Bibi Netanyahu, now we can say from here to eternity that he didn't support it and didn't agree with it, but he was there and he didn't stop it.
At the end, Raviv was shouting, this is a dictatorship. Was this a manufactured dictatorship to justify the killing? And what does that sound like, if so? This is a dictatorship. This person's a Nazi. It sounds all too familiar to me. My final thought about this article is that JFK Jr., in allowing this to be published, I'm sure this was not an easy decision for him to publish, because it's been written that he didn't like going down the rabbit holes. He didn't like talking about conspiracy theorists, because he said, at the end of the day, my father's still not here. And that's what he says in his editor's letter. At the end of the day, Rabin is not here. But it is important to look at more facts to see what might have happened. And I think in doing this, JFK Jr. is nodding to it. He's saying, yes, there are conspiracies. And now that Trump is back in office and he's vowed to release those JFK files, maybe the American public and the world will once and for all know exactly what happened that day in 1963. That does it for this episode of the George Collection. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week, and I'll see you next time.